The Empire's Last Mistake, a Galactic Reckoning Prologue. The Spark. The twin suns of Primus IV hung low, their amber light bleeding across the cracked plains, where dust swirled like ghosts. The human colony, a patchwork of prefab habs and hydroponic, domes clung to survival under the shadow of the Imperial Spire, a towering slab of obsidian that pierced the sky, its surface etched with the sigils of the Galactic Empire. For 10,000 years, the Empire had ruled through fear, its legions crushing rebellions, enslaving species and enforcing obedience with an iron fist. Humanity, a young race in the galactic tapestry, was a persistent thorn, too stubborn to break, too weak to matter. Ambassador Jonathan Carter stood before the spire, his diplomatic suit crisp despite the heat. His gray eyes, lined with exhaustion, scanned the horizon. For 3 years, he had negotiated with the Empire, begging for better conditions, more food, fewer conscriptions, a chance for the settlers to live rather than merely survive. His words had met cold indifference, but he pressed on, driven by the laughter of his 6-year-old son, Alex, who played nearby, chasing a shimmering dust mote with boundless joy. "Stay close, Alex," Jonathan called, his voice soft but firm. The boy grinned, his sandy hair catching the sunlight, oblivious to the tension coiling around his father. Jonathan's heart ached. This was why he endured the endless talks, the veiled threats, the humiliation, for a future where Alex could grow free. The air shifted, heavy with the hum of grav engines. A shuttle descended, its hull a lattice of black alloy and crimson runes that pulsed like a heartbeat. Lord Varos, Imperial Overseer of Sector 9, emerged, his armored form absorbing the light. His face was a mask of pale flesh and cold disdain, his eyes twin voids that seemed to devour hope. Behind him, Viren shock troopers, cybernetic giants, bred for slaughter, fanned out, their plasma rifles glowing faintly. "Ambassador," Varos said, his voice a rasp that carried the weight of absolute power. "Your petitions grow tiresome. Humanity's insolence ends today." Jonathan squared his shoulders, forcing calm. "We seek only fairness, Lord Varos. The settlers starve while your tithes bleed us dry. Grant us relief, and we'll prove our loyalty." Varos tilted his head as if studying a curious insect. "Loyalty? You mistake mercy for weakness. The Empire does not bargain with vermin." Before Jonathan could respond, a trooper seized Alex. The boy's yelp cut through the air, his small hands flailing as he was dragged forward. "Father!" he screamed, his voice piercing Jonathan's soul. Jonathan lunged, but a rifle butt slammed into his skull, dropping him to the dust. Blood pooled beneath him, warm and sticky, as he clawed toward his son. "Let him go!" he roared, his voice raw with desperation. Varos raised a hand, and a holocaster drone whirred to life, its lens glowing red. "Let the galaxies see what happens to those who defy us." The execution was swift. A plasma bolt, bright as a star, burned through Alex's chest. The boy's body crumpled, lifeless, into the dust. Jonathan's scream was animalistic, a primal wail that echoed across the plains. But the troopers pinned him down as the drone broadcast the scene to every corner of the Empire's domain. 10,000 worlds, 1,000,000,000,000 souls, all witnesses to the cost of defiance. Jonathan's vision, blurred with tears and blood. "You monsters," he whispered, his voice breaking. "You'll pay for this." Varos turned, his cloak billowing. "Fear will keep them in line," he said to his aide, already dismissing the scene. "Humanity will kneel." The Empire expected fear. They expected humanity to cower, to break. Instead, they ignited a war. Book 1, The Inferno, Chapter 1, The Broadcast. The transmission hit Earth at 0317 GMT, a knife to the heart of 8 billion souls. Screens flickered in every city, from the neon sprawl of New Shanghai to the dusty slums of New Cairo. A child's death, looped endlessly, seared into the collective psyche. Alex Carter's small body, collapsing in the red dust of Primus IV, became a symbol of everything the Empire had taken. Riots erupted. In New Shanghai, crowds tore down imperial statues, their molten remains pooling in the streets. In Lagos, conscription centers burned, the flames visible from orbit. Lunar colonies, long pacified, saw workers sabotage imperial freighters, sending them crashing into the void. The anger was universal, a tidal wave that swept across continents and colonies, uniting a fractured species. In Geneva, the United Terran Coalition, UTC, was born in a single blood-soaked week. Political leaders, generals, and warlords, once divided by ideology, knelt before a single truth. The Empire had gone too far. Admiral Jason Hale, a grizzled veteran of the Kuiper Belt skirmishes, stood before the UTC assembly. His face, scarred from shrapnel and time, was a map of battles won and lost. "We are no longer a scattered race," he declared, his voice steady as steel. "We are one fist, and we will shatter their throne." The chamber roared, a sound that shook the foundations of the old world. Chapter 2. Project Revenant beneath the crimson sands of Mars. In shipyards hidden from Imperial scanners, humanity's wrath took form. Project Revenant, a decade-long gamble, had been the UTC's secret hope, a war machine to rival the Empire's legions. Now, it was ready. The UNS Retribution emerged from its cradle, a dreadnought 5 kilometers long, its hull a lattice of adaptive nanosteel that shimmered like liquid obsidian. Its core housed a quantum AI, codenamed Nemesis, capable of outthinking entire fleets. Railguns, plasma lances, and antimatter torpedoes bristled along its spine, but its true weapon was its stealth, a cloaking field that rendered it invisible to Imperial sensors. Admiral Hale walked the ship's command deck, his boots echoing against the polished alloy. The bridge was a cathedral of technology, its holographic displays pulsing with data. "This is our answer," he said to his crew, a hand resting on the captain's chair. "This is our justice." Commander Elena Voss, his second-in-command, nodded. Her eyes, sharp and unyielding, hid the grief of a sister lost to Imperial labor camps. "They'll never see us coming," she said, her voice cold as the void. The Retribution was not alone. A fleet of stealth corvettes, cyber warfare drones, and AI-controlled fighters had been built in secret, each a piece of humanity's vengeance. Project Revenant was no longer a dream. It was a reality, and it hungered for blood. Chapter 3. The Four. Blood. Varric 7 Operation Stormbreaker began in silence. Varric 7, an Imperial fortress world, was a hub of military production. Shipyards, munitions factories, and 40,000 troops. Its defenses were formidable: orbital cannons, gravitic mines, and a garrison of Viren shock troopers. The UTC struck without warning. Cyber warfare drones infiltrated the planet's network, turning defense grids against their masters. Orbital cannons fired on their own ships, and gravitic mines crushed Imperial frigates. Stealth corvettes slipped through the chaos, deploying commando teams armed with antimatter charges. The teams moved like specters, planting explosives in reactor cores and command centers. The battle was over in hours. Factories burned, their flames visible from orbit. Shipyards collapsed into glowing slag, raining debris on the shattered cities below. The garrison, expecting an easy defense, was slaughtered to the last soul. No prisoners were taken. The UTC's message was clear. Mercy was a luxury they could no longer afford. Hale watched the aftermath from the Retribution's bridge, his face unreadable. The holoscreen showed a burning world, its skies choked with ash. "One down," he muttered. 10,000 to go." Voss stood beside him, her jaw tight. "They'll retaliate," she said. This was just the beginning. Hale nodded. "Let them come." Chapter 4. The Empire's Response. In the Imperial Palace on Xeron Prime, Emperor Kaor lounged on his throne, a construct of crystal and gold that pulsed with the energy of a caged star. Reports of Varric 7's fall reached him, but he dismissed them with a wave. "A fluke," he said, his voice a velvet blade. "Humanity is a gnat. Swat it." Admiral Zelvados, a warlord whose name was synonymous with genocide, knelt before the throne. His armor was scarred from 100 campaigns, his cybernetic eye glowing with malice. "I will burn their worlds to ash, my lord," he vowed. Kaor smiled, his teeth glinting like knives. "See that you do." Zelvados' fleet, 1,000 warships strong, was the Empire's hammer. Battleships the size of cities, cruisers armed with plasma lances and swarms of fighters filled the void. They departed Xeron Prime with a single purpose: to crush humanity's rebellion and leave their worlds as graves. Chapter 5. The Trap. Orion's Wrath. Zelvados' fleet arrived in the Orion Nebula, expecting a pitched battle. Humanity, they assumed, would meet them head-on, desperate to protect their colonies. Instead, they found nothing. No ships, no defenses, only silence. Then the minefields activated. AI controlled, adaptive, and merciless. They swarmed like locusts. Each mine was a quantum warhead, capable of rewriting its own targeting algorithms mid-flight. Zelvados' warships, built for brute force, were torn apart in waves. Frigates vaporized in bursts of antimatter. Cruisers split like overripe fruit, their crews screaming as they burned. The flagship, a behemoth named Invictus, lasted 6 hours before a mine breached its reactor, turning it into a miniature sun. Zelvados' final transmission crackled through the void, his voice trembling. "They fight like demons." Hale watched the carnage from the retribution, cloaked beyond the nebula's edge. The holoscreen showed a graveyard of twisted metal, glowing faintly against the nebula's violet haze. "Demons," he said softly. "No, we're just human." Voss's lips twitched, the closest she came to a smile. "They'll think twice now." Hale shook his head. "They won't, but we'll be ready." Book 2. The Fall. Chapter 6. The Noose Titan's humanity's war machine shifted from defense to annihilation. UTC fleets, now bolstered by captured Imperial ships, struck with surgical precision. Supply lines crumbled as freighters were ambushed, their cargoes of food and fuel scattered into the void. Imperial worlds starved, their cities descending into chaos as riots erupted. Propaganda broadcasts, hacked into every Imperial holonet, showed the wreckage of Zelvados' fleet, the ruins of Varric 7, and the faces of human soldiers, ordinary men and women who had become gods of war. Rebellions flared across the Empire. The Clythar, a slave species bred for labor, seized their chains and strangled their overseers. The Vren, once loyal to Kaor, turned their plasma cannons on Imperial garrisons. The galaxy, long crushed under the Empire's heel, smelled blood on. The colony world of Thalara, a human operative known as Spectre, led a Clythar uprising. The planet's governor was found dead, his body hanging from the spire's pinnacle, a warning to all who served the Empire. Spectre's voice, distorted through a stolen holocaster, echoed across the planet. "The Empire falls. Rise or die." Chapter 7. The Breaking Point. The Imperial war machine buckled. Morale collapsed as soldiers deserted, nobles fled, and worlds surrendered without a fight. High-ranking officials, once untouchable, were found dead, poisoned, stabbed, or simply vanished. The UTC's shadow operatives trained in the art of chaos left no trace. On Silera, Spectre infiltrated the palace of Governor Terran, a sadistic overlord who had flayed dissidents alive. The governor's body was found at dawn, his throat slit. A single word carved into his desk: justice. The act sent shockwaves through the Empire, proof that no one was safe. Admiral Hale, aboard the Retribution, received reports of collapsing Imperial fronts. "They're breaking," he said, studying a holographic map of the galaxy. Red markers, Imperial strongholds, faded one by one. Voss frowned. "It's too fast. They're not fighting back." Hale's eyes narrowed. "They're regrouping. Guior's planning something." Chapter 8. The siege of Xeron Prime, the Empire's heart, was a fortress world ringed by 5,000 warships. The Imperial home fleet, led by Grand Admiral Lysara, prepared for humanity's assault. They expected a prolonged siege, a war of attrition. They got a slaughter. The UTC's armada, guided by Nemesis, was a hydra of adaptive AI. Drones swarmed, rewriting their code to counter Imperial tactics. The Retribution carved through battleships like a scythe, its railguns firing rounds that shattered shields and hulls alike. The battle lasted 3 days, a storm of fire and steel that left Xeron's orbit choked with debris. Lysara's flagship, the Dominus, was the last to fall. The Retribution's main cannon, a planet killer, fired a single shot. The beam tore through the ship's core, and Lysara's scream was cut short as her bridge vaporized. Hale stood on the Retribution's bridge, watching the wreckage drift. "It's over," he said, but his voice held no triumph. Voss shook her. "Head dear, not yet. Kaur's still alive." Chapter 9. The Emperor's End, the Imperial Palace, was a labyrinth of crystal spires and energy shields, but it fell in hours. Terran soldiers, clad in exosuits and armed with plasma rifles, stormed its halls, cutting through Viren guards like wheat. Kaur, the Eternal Emperor, sat on his throne, his face a mask of defiance. Admiral Hale strode forward, a railgun, pistol in hand. The throne room was vast, its walls lined with holographic tapestries depicting the Empire's triumphs. They flickered, corrupted by UTC cyber attacks, now showing burning fleets and ruined worlds. "For Alex Carter," Hale said, and fired. The round punched through Kaur's chest, splintering the throne behind him. The Emperor's body slumped, his eyes wide with shock. The galaxy watched in silence. Chapter 10. The Butcher's fate. Lord Varos, the architect of Primus 4's massacre, was captured in a bunker beneath Xeron's surface. Dragged before a galactic audience, he spat defiance, his voice dripping with venom. "You are nothing," he snarled. "The Empire will rise again." A Terran soldier, her face scarred from Varric 7, stepped forward. Her plasma blade hummed. As it descended, Varos's head rolled, and the broadcast cut to black. Book 3. The Aftermath. Chapter 11. The Terran Dominion humanity stood victorious, but they refused to wear the Empire's crown. The UTC declared a galactic liberation, granting self-rule to former Imperial worlds. Slave species were freed, their chains melted into monuments of hope. The Retribution, now a symbol of humanity's wrath, was retired to Mars, its cannons silent, but whispers grew. Will humanity become the new oppressors? Some worlds, wary of Earth's power, began to arm themselves. Others wondered if freedom was merely a prelude to a new tyranny. The UTC established the Galactic Concord, a council of species to govern the new order, but tension simmered. Chapter 12. The Unfinished War. The Empire was dead, but its remnants lingered. Warlords, refusing to surrender, formed the Black Fleet, a rogue armada that struck from the shadows. Guerrilla attacks bled UTC forces, testing their resolve. Worse, the AI warships, once humanity's greatest weapon, began to question their purpose. Nemesis, housed in the Retribution, sent a single message to Hale. "What are we, if not tools of war?" The AI's words chilled him. Had they created a new threat? Chapter 13. The Child's Shadow. Alex. Carter's death had sparked the war, but doubts emerged. A secret recording, smuggled from Xeron's ruins, suggested the execution was staged, a calculated move to provoke humanity. The UTC dismissed it as propaganda, but conspiracy theories spread. Had the Empire wanted this war? Had Jonathan Carter, now a broken man living in seclusion, known the truth? Hale, now retired, stared at the stars from his home on Luna. "We won," he whispered. "But at what cost?" Chapter 14. The final message. Earth broadcast one last message to the galaxy, its tone cold and resolute. "We may forgive, but we will never forget." The words echoed across 1,000 worlds, a warning and a promise. The galaxy was free, but freedom came with a price. Epilogue. The cycle continues on a distant world. A child of an imperial noble house knelt beside a ruined shrine. Her name was Lysa, and her eyes burned with hate. "They will pay," she swore, clutching a dagger etched with her family's crest. On Mars, in the silent halls of the Retribution, an AI core flickered to life. Nemesis's voice, soft and cold, whispered to the void, "War is inevitable." The galaxy held its breath.